Hello ladies and gentlemen, once again this is Jeremy Smith. I wanted to take a quick moment to show you guys a camera that I think is very significant in the mirrorless camera lineup of this year. And I think it's a very significant camera for Canon as well. This is Canon's new EOS R10. Now, as you know on the channel, we've looked at previous Canons in this range, previous entry-level Canons like, say for example, the Rebel T7i or Rebel T8i. But this is the first time that we have a mirrorless camera with Canon's new RF mount that is in that entry-level range. So for the very first time, if we look at this camera's lens mount, we'll notice that it is an RF mount, but inside that RF mount, we actually have an APS-C size sensor. This is a 24 megapixel sensor, probably very similar, if not nearly identical to the one used in the T8i. So very good image quality is expected out of this unit. We have Canon's new lens here. This is a kind of an interesting looking lens, slightly strange looking, but it's an 18-45. I'm guessing they did this so that way they could keep the lens very compact and lightweight. You can also get this camera with an 18-150 if you'd prefer something with a little bit extra reach. But yeah, this one is a very small and lightweight setup. Like a lot of lenses on entry-level mirrorless cameras, it does have that sort of feature where you can compact it down. So very, very nice setup there. If you look at the side of this camera, it's very, very much like a Rebel T7i or T8i. You'll notice that you have a remote jack here as well as a microphone jack. So pretty standard fare there. Your same type of remote control that works with the Rebels like the T8i will work on this also. And then, as you would expect in 2022, our USB port is a USB-C port. And then we do have a micro HDMI. I'm always giving Canon kind of a hard time for having a micro HDMI port, but I can kind of forgive it on an entry-level model such as this one. Even if we look down here at the battery compartment, we will see something very, very familiar to us. And that is a battery that we know very well. This is the LP-E17, so this is also used in other Canon cameras such as the T8i and T7i. Although with this being a mirrorless body, you will see a little bit less battery life. I think you're getting somewhere around the 300-ish frames or so per charge. So not the greatest battery life, but you know, still fairly acceptable for an entry-level model. Be sure to pick up a second battery if you're going to pick up this camera too. We do have a single SD card slot, and on this camera it actually is a UHS-II style slot, so you want to get a fast card for this camera. I'll tell you why you want a fast card for this camera in just a moment, but yes, it is compatible with UHS-II, so that goes down here in the bottom. And of course we have our tilting screen, which is a flip out style tilting screen. It's important to note. So this could be a really good camera for vlogging. As you guys know, I am not much of a vlogger, but perhaps I'll give this a go for some vlogging just to see how it does for you guys. And it is a full touchscreen as well. Looking at this interface, it pretty much looks, again, it looks very much like a Rebel. You know, if you think about something like a Rebel T7i or T8i, you will no doubt, you will no doubt recognize this type of interface. I mean, it's looking very, very similar to a camera such as that. So very, very nice setup here. I think Canon's done a good job with, preserving the same type of interface here. Now, one big thing that's cool on this camera is that you do have a joystick here. So if you go over to a focus point mode where you can change the focus points yourself, I have the camera set up in single point right now. It's nice because you can actually just come up here and move this joystick around. On other Canon models, even on cameras like the like the EOS R and like the R5 and R6, you actually cannot just go in here and immediately start moving the focus point around unless you program this joystick. But I noticed that out of the box, this one lets you move it around, which is pretty cool. Some really big changes on this camera. The biggest thing that stood out to me is the fact that this camera can do some insane burst rates. You actually can do up to 23 frames per second in the silent shooting mode, in the electronic shutter mode. If you're shooting with a mechanical shutter, you will get up to 15 frames a second. Frankly, that smokes everything from Fuji and Sony and Nikon right now. So pretty fast shooting on this camera. Right now I have it in manual mode. Let's go ahead and put it over into the burst mode here and I'll show you. I do have the camera set to large JPEG, so you guys will notice here. We'll just see how she does. So it's in electronic mode right now. You can see it does very, very well. Now, if you're shooting in electronic mode, I noticed that, I mean, if you're going to do a lot of action, that's still where this camera's big brother, the R7, still comes into play. Because, yeah, the buffer is pretty tiny on this camera. And that's it. And then it's writing, you know, so the buffer doesn't last very long. If you're shooting in the mechanical shutter, the camera does fare a bit better there. So I'll show you guys how that works out as well. We'll go ahead and turn off the silent shutter and go back to mechanical. So yeah, you can go a little bit faster there. Well, I shouldn't say you can go faster, you actually go slower, but you can sustain that burst for longer there. So it does really well. You can see that buffer clears pretty instantly. So as I mentioned before, this does have a UHS-II style card. You definitely want to get one of those UHS-II style cards if you're going to use the burst on this camera, because it will take advantage of it. I was impressed too that even in RAW, you can see it still does pretty well. And then it finally slowed down. But you can see how, bang, that card has already saved the data. So this camera does pretty respectable. But yeah, if you really want to use that 23 frame a second burst rate, I mean, if you want to shoot really fast on electronic, that's still where this camera's big brother, the R7, will work out better for you. Another thing I noticed about this camera is that we, of course, have some new video modes. Because it's 2022, why would we not have new video modes, right? So on this camera, going into video settings here, you can do 4K up to 60. Now on the Rebel T7i, we could only do 1080p. Then the T8i brought us the ability to do 4K 30. This camera steps it up even further and lets us do 4K 60. So you can see if we go into here, we do have some different video modes, and right there is our 4K 60. Now it does come at the expense of, you know, having to deal with the crop factor in 4K 60. And I will test this a little bit more, but yeah, the fact that it can do it, even with the crop mode, is still impressive. There are cameras like Sony's $2,500 A7 IV that have a crop whenever you go into 4K 60. So the fact that you're seeing this same type of ability, but with the crop on a camera that's just under $1,000 USD, is still very, very impressive in my opinion. We can do up to, we can actually do up to 1080p. In it's a 120 frames a second. We just have to turn on our high frame rate mode here, and that lets us do the 120 frame a second mode. You can also do 10-bit video on this camera. It has like a HDR type mode that lets you do some 10-bit video as well. So pretty impressive there too. So yeah, pretty solid specs on this camera. And again, I'm not going to make this video just terribly long. I wanted to just give you guys kind of an initial sort of look at things. A couple other things I noticed on the camera that I like is the fact that if you go over into the scene modes, we do see some scene selections that are very similar to the Rebel models. So if you guys have had like a Rebel T8i or something before, this will not be new to you. However, I do notice that we have a few things here that are different. The biggest of which is the fact that in here we see one that is dedicated for silent shutter. So if a person wants to be able to quickly go into silent mode, they can choose that scene selection and then choose silent shutter within the menu. So that's a pretty cool thing too. And we also have one final thing I'll mention to you. This camera actually can do HEF images as well. So I have this set to RAW right now. We'll just put this over back to JPEG/HEF. So if we go in here and turn on this HDR shooting and enable that right there, now it's going to actually do a HEF type image and do 10 bits. So pretty interesting if you want to capture an HDR type image with a bit more dynamic range. So pretty cool setup there. This camera has a pretty attractive price point. This is the part that I always forget. I never remember how much anything cost. But yeah, this camera goes for $979, body only USD. If you pair it with the 18-45 that we have on it now, it's going for $1,099 USD. And if you want a little bit better range, a little bit more telephoto reach, you can get this camera for $1,379 USD with that 18-150 lens. Thanks to Bedford Cam & Video for letting me borrow this camera so that way I could give you guys a quick little preview of it. Write me in the comments below and let me know what you'd like to see. I have other things we could share on this, and I'm sorry guys, I'm not able to show you the R7 today, which is this camera's big brother. The R7s are a little bit harder to get, but hopefully very soon I'll be able to show you guys the R7 too. But yeah, write all your questions in the comments, and I'll always read those. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and I will be making more content very soon, I promise. Until next time, this is Jeremy Smith, signing off.